Welcome to Moments with Marianne. I'm so delighted we're spending this time here today. We have a very inspiring show coming right up with special guest, Dr. Kac Young. And she's here today to talk to us about her new book, The Art of Healing with Crystals. Now, Dr. Kac has been a producer, writer, and director in the Hollywood television industry for over 25 years. She earned her PhD in natural health and doctorate in naturopath. She completed 36 hours of nutrition from Baylor University, and her clients come to her for advice on health, nutrition, and spiritual well-being. Using her third doctorate in clinical hypnotherapy, she helps people manage weight control, smoking cessation, behavior modification, stress reduction, past life regression, and phobia management. I'm so delighted that she's here today to share with us her new book, The Art of Healing with Crystals. So let's welcome to the show, Dr. Kac Young.
Thank you so much. I'm really honored to be here.
Oh my goodness, what a joy it is to have you here. And I loved your book. It was amazing.
Oh, thank you so much. It's a culmination of 30 to 40 years of my love of crystals, and so I'm so excited to put it out into the world. I want everybody to work with them.
Well, and there's a lot of interesting thought process around crystals, so I'm glad we're going to be talking about this today. But before we dive into that, you have quite an amazing background. I was really impressed. I mean, you've worked in Hollywood, you've been a director and a producer. What was the switch for you to kind of move from that more into the work that you're doing now, which is kind of more of this empowerment, enlightenment work?
Well, thank you for asking. It kind of started for me on the set. I was the stage manager of the Cher show on CBS. It wasn't Sonny and Cher, but it was Cher's variety show. And our stage manager was a wonderful guy. His name was Sandy Frank, and he came to work one day and dropped dead right in front of us. And he was a dancer. He was thin. He had lots of energy. He was 55 years old. But what I realized is that he was under a lot of stress, a lot of pressure. He did a lot of coffee. He did a lot of cigarettes and Coca-Cola for lunch. And I think his body just gave out. So on that day, I said, oh my gosh, I am a woman in show business. At the time, in the 70s and 80s, I worked twice as hard as the men in order to go up the ladder and be recognized. And I said, I don't want to die. I want to have a career and have my health. So I started exploring other alternative ways of living, nutrition, heart health, crystals, Bach flowers, essential oils. I looked at everything outside of regular medicine and the regular lifestyle. I began to eat healthier. I began to concentrate on nutrition, and I brought all of these other healing modalities into my life. Every time, the beauty of working in show business is that you are working really, really hard for a dedicated amount of time, and then you go on hiatus. And when I was on hiatus, between shows, I would go find out something. I'd work with a mentor. I'd study a different modality, and then I would come back and, work real hard on the next show and then find another thing. So I traveled all around the world. I went to India. I went to Asia. I went to Australia. I went to lots of places to work with people who were teaching other things. And I combined my disciplines. I worked in show business, loved every moment of it, and then also studied these other things. So I brought them into my life. And then when I decided to concentrate on writing books, I'm still in show business. I still consult, and right now I'm writing a screenplay. So that's still part of me, but I am bringing to that work now a consciousness that involves many other things. And I think it's making my work better, and it certainly enhances my life on every level.
Well, and especially in that line of work, because it can be so tough to have this type of, to have spirituality as an outlet where you're kind of investigating and learning more and just kind of digging deeper for yourself. It must have been such a liberating experience.
Well, it was, and instantly I was able to help people because I got my doctorate in hypnotherapy as one of the first things I did. So I was able to help my other coworkers stop smoking, start to eat better, and I realized that, hey, this world of metaphysics, this world of what I now call the in-between, between our cosmic life and our life on Earth, that in-between section is where our power really lies. So as I began to become more effective as a hypnotherapist, I realized, and what else is there out there? And that's when I became interested in the more vibrational approach to healing and where that takes you in the world.
Mm-hmm. How all that comes together. Well, and so now we're talking about The Art of Crystals, your new book. What inspired you to write this book?
Well, one of my sojourns, I met and studied with a gentleman called Frank Alper. And Frank was interesting to me because he'd worked with IBM, and so he had a scientific background of crystals, their properties, and their molecular structure. And when I studied with him, I really then saw the power that these minerals, that these gems held, because he explained it not from a kind of a woo-woo place, but from a real basis of here's why they work, and then you can take off from there. He was a great healer. He ended up teaching in Switzerland, and that's where he had the rest of his life in his institute. So I got this little crack where he was over in the United States, and that really started my exploration. And as I integrated crystals into my life, I was kind of hesitant to write a book on them. My book on essential oils was sort of easier for me to write in one way because it was more mainstream, and crystals was still kind of far and distant. And I thought, no, bring to that book what Frank taught you. Start with the basics and then move into the other realms with it, because that's what's going to get people to understand, just like it did for you. So I was inspired by Frank, and then it just became a time in my life, Marianne, where you kind of, I couldn't not do it. I'd reached a point where I said, well, I have to write about crystals. I have to tell people how they work and share the information. I can't just sit on it selfishly.
Well, and it's interesting because there's a lot of conflicting information out there in regards to crystals, and I felt like your book really resonated with me. There's a lot in it that I was going, gosh, that makes so much sense.
Well, thank you. I think that everything in this world is alive. I think that even when we look at a rock, it's alive because it's made of atoms. Those atoms are active, they're living, they're full of energy. And even a fork is alive because it is made up of atoms and energy, and it's existing as a fork. So if we look at the things around us as a who instead of a what, then we give them the ability or the respect to exist exactly as they are. And then we stop misusing things as well. That's one of the side benefits. But with crystals, they breathe. They're alive, and they vibrate. That is the nature. That is the science of them. That's not me making it up. That's what they do. I call it suspended breath. It's as if the universe breathed into this molten material and it crystallized a breath from that time. So when you look at a crystal, you're holding in your hand a living, vibrating piece of breath. And where that breath came from, I don't know, the atmosphere, maybe a person. maybe a dinosaur if it's old enough, but it is a breath and it is a live thing. And so you can work with it as a living entity, and that's where the real magic comes in, because it helps you navigate the reality between our physical world and our cosmic universe.
Oh, and I love how you've just broken that down, because it makes perfect sense. I mean, because it's easy when, let's say, we're to go on a crystal dig and where we just find them along our path, how we can just connect them so they've got this beautiful connection with the earth and everything around us.
Well, it's true, and I think that, every civilization has a word for breath. The Chinese call it qi. The Japanese call it ki. In Sanskrit, it's prana. The Hawaiians call it mana. The Greeks have always called it pneuma. The Egyptians called it ka. Even the Sioux called it wakan. So every old civilization, every ancient peoples had to name what they call breath, or the breath of life. And we all have it. So do the trees, so do the plants. And as we look at the mineral kingdom, so do the minerals and the crystals. And our psyche resonates to anything that breathes, anything that vibrates. It's just in our DNA. And as crystals vibrate into our vibration, we form a third vibration. We form a new field. Our brain picks up that new vibrational field, and it reacts biochemically in our body. That's how we heal and change with the crystals. And I didn't make that up. The men of science and the scientists decided that is how crystals work in conjunction with the human body and the human brain. That's how the physical body shifts in reaction to the vibrations. So there's nothing outrageous about that. It is laboratory proven.
Well, especially nowadays, there's so much that science is proving that we have known, from an energetic level. And now to put the two together is such a beautiful thing. So have you ever come across something that the body or crystals can't seem to heal? Because it seems like it can do so much.
Well, it can. And what I think is that it isn't the crystal or the vibrational field that doesn't heal. It's the thing itself. It is the person. It is some mental pattern blocking that healing. There is some disbelief in the brain or in the mind of the person, in the heart, that says, oh, I can't heal from that, or this can't heal. And so the blockage is artificial. It is set up. It can easily be changed in the mind and heart of the person or thing, and that's where we want to do some extra work. That's what crystals of some sorts can break through as well and help. It's it's like getting a shot. It's going to help you. It's going to boost you, and that's what crystal energy does.
Well, and so how do you know when crystals are not working? I mean, because it seems like you can really tell when they're achieving their highest. When do you see that they're not doing that? And we talked about the blocks. Are there other reasons that would happen?
Well, a lot of it happens to do with belief. A lot of it happens to do with the way they are being utilized. When you get a crystal, when you work with it, it is a blank page. You want to cleanse it in case it comes to you with other vibrations. But a crystal itself is made up of silicon and oxygen. And it is regarded in the scientific world as being the perfect order. That is a structure of the crystal that is perfect. That's why we use it in our technology in our cell phones, in our computers, and in our watches. We use it because a crystal has that stability for transmitting heat, light, and energy across its structure because it is of perfect order. So if something is not working, if a crystal is not working, then what you do is try a different way, or you alter the way you're doing it. What are you putting into it? What are you saying? What are you blocking? And at that point, if something is not working, I would reach out and get some help. I would ask another therapist. I would ask a friend. I would ask another crystal expert, why may this not be working? And we might find that it is something in the mind or something that we're not using it correctly. And by that I mean we haven't programmed it in a certain way that it can respond. It's kind of like training a dog, if you will. If you give a dog contradicting commands, the dog is not going to figure things out. If you are consistent and do it correctly and with praise, the dog will respond to you, and it sets a pattern. Same thing with crystals. You can't one day tell it one thing and another day tell it another, or being mad at it. If you get mad at it and angry, all it knows is to take in that vibration of anger, and so it's not going to perform its primary service to you.
Well, and so knowing this now, when someone, they buy a crystal, they resonate with one, and they've cleaned it, and they're ready to go. Do different colors of crystals matter for different parts of healing, or what would your advice on that be?
Well, yeah, it can. It really can. A crystal is formed, some as clear quartz, some as totally clear, but all the crystals out there are of the same chemical composition. The only difference is that they are formed next to another mineral. Sulfur will come up with a yellow or a brown crystal. Lavender is formed with another kind of crystal. Whether it's next to iron or magnesium, that's what gives it its color. And therefore, it has a slightly different vibration, and people have experimented for 5,000 years with crystals, and they've come up with which ones work better for different types of things. Like, for example, a black tourmaline is a good grounding and purifying crystal. So if you want to get rid of negativity, if you want to help feel more grounded, then you would work with a black tourmaline. If you want a more spiritual, insightful help, if you want to commune with angels, or you want something more in the psychic world, you would work with selenite. So those crystals are more conducive to the vibration of that kind of healing, for example. So a citrine, for example, never needs cleansing because it's so perfect in its structure, itself cleanses itself, so you don't have to worry about it. It's going to take care of you no matter what.
I never knew that. And what a great thing, because, a lot of times when we think about cleansing our crystals, it can be a process, and getting them all together and out in the sunlight, salt, whatever the deal is. So it's nice to be able to have one that's going to just do it itself.
Exactly. It's sort of like a self-cleaning oven, only it's a self-cleaning crystal. What I loved is when I was doing some research for the book, I learned that the ancient Sumerians, on the tablets that have been found, they included crystals in all their magic formulas. And the things that we find on the cuneiform tablets is that they had a very, very sophisticated culture based in cosmic energy exchange. And one of the ways that they did that was through the crystals. So did the Egyptians. I mean, for example, Cleopatra not only ground up malachite and lapis and used it as eye makeup. So when you look at the old representations of Egyptian women, they were using gemstones on their eyes. And the first jewelry was made to touch the reflexology points. The first jewelry wasn't for adornment, it was for healing purposes. Even the breastplate of Aaron that's talked about in the Bible had 12 different jewels, gemstones representing the 12 tribes of Egypt, and that became our set of birthstones for our own birth months. So it's been happening for so many years, and it's kind of like in modern society, hey, let's wake up. Let's go back to what they knew 5,000 years ago, and let's recreate our society using all of the energies and all the magnetic fields and all the vibrations that we have at our fingertips. It's not that hard. People that we consider I don't know, less than our society, less sophisticated, were using it, and maybe they were smarter than we were on so many levels.
Well, on that note, we are going to pause here for a quick break. We've been speaking with Dr. Kac Young in regards to her new book, The Art of Healing with Crystals. You've been listening to Moments with Marianne. We'll be right back after these messages.
Internationally recognized and award-winning author Judy Goodman works and teaches outside the box of limited thinking. Working with people from every walk of life, her goal is to empower you to be the best you can be, no matter what the challenge is. Born with the gift of seeing beyond our normal vision, she has an extraordinary gift of working with every challenge. Teaching beyond conventional wisdom, her work is described as life-changing. Visit judygoodman.com. That's judygoodman.com.
There comes a moment when you realize you're somewhere special, when you discover that each beautiful creature that you see has been rescued from a life of absolute horror and brought to this incredibly free place. Here's where their lives were forever changed and where yours will as well. Discover over 500 tigers, bears, and lions at the brand new visitor center at the Wild Animal Sanctuary just outside Denver. For more information, visit wildanimalsanctuary.org. Discover true freedom at the Wild Animal Sanctuary.
Have you ever had the sense that your thoughts might actually be doing something? Ancient secrets of manifesting have been masterfully revealed in the award-winning book Manifesting 123 by Ken Elliott. For the first time, the author's experiences and stories in this book describe exactly how your thoughts can create anything. You've been doing this all your life, but it's never been fully explained for you until now. Visit manifesting123.com for more information today. Manifesting123.com.
There are nearly 2 million Americans living with amputation. Many live right here in San Antonio. Becoming an amputee can be scary, frustrating, isolating, but there's no reason to feel alone. The San Antonio Amputee Foundation is here to help support you and guide you toward resources such as home and car modifications and even prosthetic limbs. For more information or to make a donation, visit saamputee.org. We'll help you live a full, active life, one step at a time. San Antonio Amputee Foundation, healing limbs, hearts, and souls.
Welcome back to Moments with Marianne. We're here today with special guest Dr. Kac Young, who's sharing with us her new book, The Art of Healing with Crystals. Now, Dr. Kac, before we went to break, we were talking in regards to just crystals in the home. You know, what's interesting, there seems to be a sort of kind of coming home with people in regards to their views about crystals. You know, for thousands of years, crystals have been used in all different capacities. And now people are looking for a more natural way, not only to connect with themselves, but to connect with the world around them and our planet. It seems that crystals are finding their way in every home. You know, nowadays, it's just like having a plant. People are looking for positive ways that they can affect their energy in their home space and their workspace. You know, and it's just interesting how it's making this come back.
Well, yes, and I think you're absolutely right. If we look back at these ancient societies and their ancient practices, and we see them, how they were integrated into the daily life, their daily life wasn't that bad. Yes, their lifetimes were shorter than ours, but that's for all kinds of different reasons, not just health, and modern medicine, but there was things like war and plunder and all of that. But if we look back and utilize those things and balance ourselves with natural things that are occurring in the universe, then we end up feeling better, looking better, having better health, and we deal with others with more of a sense of unity and community just automatically.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I wouldn't mind going back to having gemstones crushed up in my makeup,
Well, I think they're available. I think you can order anything online, but I'm sure Amazon has them.
Well, on your website, you have this remarkable, crystal, and it is fabulous. And, and it's this very unique shape. And so I'd love for you to share with us a little bit on the different shapes and maybe some of their meanings.
Well, absolutely. And again, this is what people have, experts have done through the years. They have decided what these do. So it's kind of like how homeopathy was created. It came from an idea, and then practice. Homeopathy was decided what remedy worked to cure what illness, and that's pretty much how the whole history of crystals have been. We have there are about 60 different crystal faces and facet formations. The basic chemical structure of the crystal does not change, but the power within it seems to fall differently with the shapes that the crystal itself comes into. For example, there are some crystals that are called channeling crystals, and they have 7 sides on their face, and 7 happens to be the number of the mystic and the seeker. So it brings out the wisdom in us, and it also allows us, so many people have found, to connect with other entities and other realms and get information from, where I call it, the in-between. So that is one thing. A cluster has different points that share the same base, and it can radiate more energy into a room or to a place than just a single crystal. A double terminated, for example, has a point on both ends, and it brings a balance of the energy through each of its ends, both ways, incoming and outgoing. There are other crystals like a manifestation crystal, which is a crystal that has a smaller crystal inside, and it's supposed to bring dreams into reality and is really kind of the ally for our creative endeavors. A story crystal has 3 pyramids, or 3 on its facets, 3 clear pyramids, and they are reputed to tell stories. They have wisdom and information inside them, and so when we sit with them and allow them to talk to us in a very quiet space, they will have things to tell us. I have many story crystals, and they have many stories. I have them around when I am writing a creative piece. Whenever I want to go back and do research, I put my story crystals with me, and I'm always led to the right bit that I need to fill out a piece. I mean, they are my friends, they are my allies, and they help me write books.
Well, isn't that just beautiful, especially when we have something that's co-creating with us in such a beautiful way?
Well, yes, and that's the word, and thank you for that word. It is that co-creative energy where I ask it for its help, and it gives back. Now, some people might say, oh, that's a lot of hooey, that doesn't happen. Well, in the times when I have not put the crystals with me, my work has been harder. and I find that they make it easier. They kind of grease the way for me a little bit, if you will. So, and I'm not an idiot. I'm a business person. I run my house. I run lots of different things, and I've successfully run a department at Universal Studios. So I am a grounded thinking person and, in the rational world, and yet I make use of as many outside energies as I can because I realize I'm only one person, and they are my village.
You've got to love that. Well, and I'm sure with the people that you work with and work around, they look at how grounded you are in the information that you share with them in regards to crystals and the other books that you've written. And it really makes sense for them because it does take a grounded person to be able to write these kind of books that will impact people that maybe have thought about these kind of topics but really haven't dived into it like they'd really want to.
Well, thank you. And Marianne, that's exactly what I have striven to do. I want people to have in their hands the ability to change their lives and to change our world. The ancient Egyptians used crystals to light up their perimeter. The top of the Great Pyramid was all crystal, and the pyramid itself was filled with water and sealed. It was used as a battery in ancient times. Now, a lot of people think, oh, my God, you've got a tin hat on your head with, aerials coming out of it. No. If you really look into the real history of the pyramid, and if you figure out why the stones on the pyramid are so tightly hewn together that you cannot get a razor blade between them. It was filled with water. It was used as a channel to bring in cosmic energies through the crystal at the top and then distribute that throughout the community. They had lights, and in my book I show you some of the drawings from inside the temples and inside the pyramids that show you what they used as the ancient batteries. Again, I'm not making this up. That's right there. You can go to Edfu. You can go to any of those temples and see this material for yourself, and you can figure out what it is. It is not a plant. It looks like a battery. And they also have their lights that they have, which is probably why they were able to build the pyramids so quickly. I mean, it may have taken a couple of lifetimes, but they built the pyramids and they had light at night. It wasn't just the 3 days when it was a full moon. They were able to light their work. So it makes a lot of common sense when you look at history through those eyes of saying, maybe other civilizations had things like that.
Well, I'm sure that they have, and we're like touching the tip of the iceberg on that one. Because more discoveries are being made where you look at other civilizations and their use in crystals and just other matters that we're kind of just now kind of coming back into.
Well, yes, exactly. And one of the things that I found out, which I thought was, entertaining, is that Napoleon, when his troops went into Egypt, they did a lot of digging. They did a lot of work, and they took back with them some of the things that they found. And the French, you look into the French records, and in the early 1800s, 1803, there was a lot of patents that were formulated around what they discovered in Egypt. So they brought it into the modern era without any credit to the pharaohs. So I guess that's what the victors and victory is all about. But it's the correlation is fairly interesting, and people can research that and find out that is true.
Yeah, without a doubt. I mean, the history is there, the research is there, and it's all kind of coming full circle. Well, and this kind of actually brings me to my next question. So when people are looking for a crystal to get for their home or for maybe their workspace, wherever they're at, does it matter if they get like a really big crystal? Should a smaller one be good? What would be the best one for them?
Well, it depends on what they want to do with it. I always like to start small. I want to start with something that you can have in your hand and maybe take with you. You want to touch and feel. I like to suggest that people take an afternoon off and go to several different stores, plan ahead, figure out who carries what, and test them out. Go ahead and feel them and handle them and see what you get. And don't just do it in one hand. Do it in both hands. So hold it in your right hand, see if you feel something. Hold it in your left hand, see if you feel something. And then try different crystals and different gems and materials. And if you go with an open mind, then some stone somewhere will speak to you. And I would say, have a lemonade in between each store and think about what you have experienced, and then plan to go back and acquire whichever one spoke to you. So I would start that way, and then I would begin to experiment with it, cleanse it, talk to it. And in my book, I have a lot of things that I suggest that you can cleanse it with, or methods that you can use. Sometimes I use water, sometimes I use seawater, oftentimes I'll use sunlight or moonlight, and sometimes I'll use music. It depends on how you want to cleanse your crystal. But you approach it from the standpoint of a who, not a what. And so you're getting to know this person, you're getting to know this entity that is alive, that vibrates, and that has its own reality. So when you do that, you get used to it, and then you can begin to program it, you can begin to talk to it, you can begin to utilize it in your daily life as that, using your word, co-creative entity with which you can accomplish different tasks or change the way you feel and alter many different things on the emotional level as well.
Yeah. Well, I know when I've gone and purchased crystals, it's interesting. I'll get certain ones. I'm like, oh my gosh, I have to have that, and you can just tell that it's one that you resonate with. And then
yes,
that whole process. I've had quite a few like that. I'm like, oh, I have to have this one. So, and sometimes people will just probably get that hit too, right?
Absolutely, and trust that, because that is the place in between speaking to you. That is the beginning of your friendship with this crystal. So absolutely. I always tell people, if you really want to do it, go to some of the gem and mineral shows. Tucson has this amazing gem and mineral show every year in February. And, you want to do this as a sightseer. You want to wear comfortable shoes. You want to set a budget, and you want to stick to it, because it's an overwhelm. It's like Disneyland of gem and minerals, and it's amazing. I have come back from my shopping spree way over budget when I haven't planned ahead and said, okay, I'm only going to spend X amount of money, and then I have to figure in, if I've flown in, I have to figure in the weight situation. Do I take an extra suitcase and bring it with me? What about packing and padding? Or do I have them ship it for me? So all of these things become a major concern when you become a crystalholic like me.
Mm-hmm. It's easy to do. Yeah, they have, I think it's the same show will also go to Denver, if I'm correct, and they'll have the big show there. And I have friends who, this is kind of their part-time fun thing, is they also travel the world, and they will collect and sell crystals. And so it's always tough visiting them, because you want to go home with 20, or so.
Well, it's true. It's true. And they're beautiful, and but it's like pets too. If you can't take care of them and can't keep them up, you don't want to put them in the corner and let them get dusty. That's not nice. You want to be able to keep them up, so if you don't want to have 5 cats if you really only have time for one. So it's care and maintenance too. It's you acquire that, and then whatever you can maintain. But they need their baths, they need to be taken care of, they need to be cleaned, they need your attention. I mean, they're just not going to want to sit in the corner and have somebody say every now and then, "Oh, aren't you pretty?" No, they're active, living, breathing creatures. They need your time and your help.
Yeah, without a doubt. Well, and I know that you've talked about, healing with crystals. What are some of the other functions that they could be used for? I know it's mostly with the healing. Is it communication too?
Well, yes. As kids, I think we all maybe tried to make that little crystal radio with a crystal and a couple of cans on a string, and we did all of that. They are used in cell phones, in computers, in watches. They are used as an entity through which things can be transmuted. So a lot of people use them for divination as well because they have this perfect structure. So it's like if they have this perfect structure and you can send energy through it, you can send light through it, you can send vibrations through it, then why wouldn't that crystal be able to pick up vibrations and information from other realms? If we believe that everything still exists from way back when, that it's out there somewhere, and we call it in, we pull it in like a radio station, then why wouldn't that crystal be able to transmute and transmit that information to us? Now, I happen to believe that they can and that they do. And it was the ancient Celts who first used crystal balls, and they were actually, quartz crystal from the earth that they had rounded into a ball, and they used that. The Druids used these as their way of divining the future and giving people hope and information about their life, just as the mariners used the stars as guides, so too the ancient civilizations used crystal balls as their divination, as their radio, as their cosmic radio for information, and they interpreted it and told people things. And from that time, it became almost like a party favor in Victorian times, where people would have beautiful crystal balls sitting around, and it was sort of like, oh, let's play this, let's play that. There was an occult spirituality time during the Victorian age as well, but a lot of people just had them as decoration. But then they became made of glass. So you really have to make sure that the crystal ball you are using is as clear as you can find, and it is quartz crystal or amethyst that can tell you things when it receives them from other places.
Yeah, you really have to know what you're getting, because you don't want to think you're getting crystal and pick up, a glass ball instead, so it's good to kind of check those things out.
Well, exactly, because a lot of things will be called crystal when in fact it's manufactured crystal, and they call it Waterford crystal and Austrian crystal and Swarovski crystal, and it's crystal. It's made in the lab of the same silicon and oxygen, the same components. It's just not from the earth. It's just not made with that magnetic resonance that the natural crystals are. So you want to make sure that you're getting a natural formed quartz crystal.
Well, my goodness. I mean, we can talk for a long time on crystals. I'm really enjoying this discussion, and you really know crystals inside and out, Kac. So I'm so glad that we were able to spend this time here today together. Where can people connect with you and be part of your community?
Oh, how sweet. KacYoung.com is my website, and you can connect to me through there. You can connect with me on Facebook. You can connect. I have various different pages for my books. My book itself, The Art of Healing with Crystals, is available on Amazon, and it's not in bookstores right now. We're doing Amazon because we think that that's where it's going. But you can download it, or you can buy it as a physical book, whatever you'd like to do. It's full of pictures, it's full of sketches, it's full of information, how-tos, what-tos, And you can contact me anytime you want. I love talking about crystals. I love sharing information. And if you really, really want to treat yourself, I do crystal healings and I teach crystal classes. So you can just connect with me and get all the information you ever want to know about crystals that I can share with you.
Well, and so on your crystal healings that you do, is that an in-person thing, or do you do healing sessions at a distance?
I only do in-person right now, and I work with a client who wants to change their life in some way, and it might be one session, it might be several sessions. It just depends on what they want to do. And I'm in Ventura, California, so it would be here in this area with me, and it's been very effective. I bring out my crystals that I've had for years. They're all programmed for healing. They never lie. They tell the truth, and they're very powerful. They're each one of them is about 6 inches by 3 inches, and they're wonderful. They have worked for a lot of people and done a lot of good in the world.
Well, how exciting is that? Well, Kac, thank you so much for taking the time to be on the show with us here today.
Oh, it's my honor to be able to speak about crystals. Thank you for the opportunity to share this information with the world, and bless you for the work you do, Marianne. You are an extraordinary human.
Well, Dr. Kac, thank you again so much for taking the time to be here. My goodness, what a great discussion that was. I'm so glad we got to talk about your new book, The Art of Healing with Crystals, and highly suggest everyone pick up their own copy. It's a great copy to have around the house. Again, you can buy The Art of Healing with Crystals on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and all major retailers. And also, of course, don't forget our indie bookstores. We got to support those. If you'd like to connect with Dr. Kac Young, you can at her website at kacyoung.com. We'll also have it listed below. And if you would like to send me an email, you have any questions, comments about the show, you can email me at marianne@marianne-pestana.com. Also, make sure to visit the Moments with Marianne website at momentswithmarianne.com. You'll see the full listing of all the great shows we have for this month, including our book club, which has listed the fabulous books that are listed for this month. Well, we're at the end of our time today. I would like to thank everyone for tuning in. You've been listening to Moments with Marianne. And remember, make every moment count.
In a single moment, your life can change. Moments with Marianne is a transformative hour that covers an endless array of topics with the best of the best. Her guests are leaders in their fields, ranging from inspirational authors, top industry leaders, and business and spiritual entrepreneurs. Each guest is gifted and a true visionary, a recognized leader in her own work, and while teaching others to develop, refocus, and grow, Marianne will bring the best guest and sometimes a special surprise. Don't miss this. You never know just which moment will change your life forever. Moments with Marianne airs every Thursday, Friday, and Sunday at 8 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Mountain Time. Make sure to tune in and visit momentswithmarianne.com for more information.